We want Dallas. Dallas, we hate you.
Yeah.
Dallas.
Shout out Philly Fresco. Shout out Brandon Ayers, man. I see y'all boys doing y'all thing out there. This one for Philly. Fly, you can fly. Let's get it.
It's the time of the year, big rival this week. Having Jerry in the seat, regretting that he signed Zeke. Hurt season in effect in the NFC East. Coming through the takeover, it's the mark of the beast. Pass rush will make him nervous, putting Dak on his back. Mika Parsons doing what? We got my lotta for that. They feel say they the best, but you know that they capping. Cowgirls is the accident waiting to happen. Go to Jerry Road and make them more pale in the face. Get the job done and take sole control on first place. Destination is Dallas, and we dropping the bomb. You are now tuning in to Philly the pod, yeah.
Philly the pod. You are now tuning in to Philly the pod, yeah, yeah. Philly the pod. You are now tuning in to Philly the pod, yeah. What is going on, you guys? It's your boy Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, and this is Philly the podcast. So today we will continue our deep dive into rivalry week. We have a special guest coming on in just a couple minutes. Kyle Youmans from the DallasCowboys.com, reporter, TV host. You've probably seen him on their shows. Very excited to get his side of the story. Looking forward to hear how he thinks about these Cowboys and this Eagles matchup. It's a big one, guys. We are 2 days away now from this game. It's gonna be a fun one. It's gonna be a fun one. What's good, Spacity Chop? I see you. But it's gonna be a fun one. So I'm excited to see how he thinks. Leave some comments. Maybe we'll get to some of your questions as well. But it's about that time, man. Tomorrow, Sunday starts off the games, off the slate of NFL games, and we have to wait all day. Then we have to go through a whole day of work on Monday waiting for this game. So it's going to be fun. We're going to keep on diving into this, and we'll see where we get, man. Be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you guys are new, we are on the road to 3K. So would love for you guys to join the ride, man. But I see all y'all in the comments already. What's up, KJ? How's it going, man? Ryan Rowe, Miss Bird Gang. I see everybody. But we're going to get to what we came here for, man. We are definitely going to get to what we came here for. So introducing my guy, Kyle Youmans. How's it going, man?
It's going all right, man. Yeah, sorry I'm a little bit late, running all over the place. It's a college football Saturday. Of course, we have Sunday off, which is a little bit nice for this week. But yeah, I'm excited to join you here for the next couple minutes.
Definitely. So for those that, obviously this is a Philadelphia Eagles channel. There's probably a lot of new faces seeing you. So let them know who you are, what you do, where they can find your work.
Yeah, so I'm Kyle Youmans. I work for DallasCowboys.com. I'm one of the TV hosts and radio hosts over there. I host a couple podcasts with them throughout the regular season and then into the off season as well. I host the pregame and the postgame shows on the website, and you can I'll do it this way. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram. That's the exact handle at Kyle_Youmans. And we have a whole lot of fun. I was born and raised in Waco, Texas, which is home of the Baylor Bears. If you guys know anything about Baylor, I know Matt Rule from up in that territory for a little bit, coached with Temple. So we both love Matt Rule at that point. But yeah, that's a little bit about me early on.
Definitely. Yeah, this is going to be fun. So what we've tried to do on this show is kind of bring on people and get both sides of the story. I know a lot of Twitter sphere, there's a lot of yelling, a lot of your mama jokes, but here we're trying to get some facts, trying to get a little bit more comfortable or uncomfortable, depending on which team you are, I guess. So the first question I really want to get into is we're in the same situation. If you look at the stats, right? Or not stats, but the record, both 1-1, 2 games in. Obviously, there was a lot of things said prior to the season, a lot of question marks. But I want to ask you, how do you feel about the Dallas Cowboys after these first 2 weeks?
I think there's a lot of positives. There certainly is some uncertainty with the injuries and some of the COVID problems that have been surfacing as of late, or at least through the first couple weeks of the season. So there is a little bit of a hesitation to really go all in. But the way that the Cowboys played defensively in the first 2 weeks of the season, I think is a huge plus from in a turnaround from what the Cowboys have seen over the last couple of years into these first 2 weeks of the season underneath Dan Quinn as the new defensive coordinator. I mean, you're able to hold Tom Brady and that Tampa Bay team to 31 points. You had a chance to win the ball game late, and ultimately Tom did what Tom does, and he was able to drive down the field and get a win for the Buccaneers in week 1. Outside of that, you feel like you've played exceptionally well. Now the offense it's always been the focal point, but the biggest question has been that defense. And so far early on, even with a couple pieces missing here and there, I think there's a pretty good feeling around it.
Definitely. I know a lot of Eagles fans aren't going to admit this, but that Buccaneers game got us a little bit worried. We were like, hold on, are they real right now? But I do want to focus on that defense a little bit. You guys completely, I said prior to the draft, the only way you guys would scare me with the draft is if you did what you did. You guys went all in on that defense, as you said, was kind of an issue for the past couple years. But, from an outsider's perspective, I'm always going to hate on you guys, right? So I want to know the truth. How real is that defense, and how good have these rookies done for you guys so far?
See, and I would expect nothing less. I want that back and forth. I want that camaraderie, I guess you could say, about having Definitely. That rivalry. If not, it's not a rivalry. I'm right there with you because going into the 2021 draft, you had the same feeling after the 2020 draft. Sure, you picked up a guy like CeeDee Lamb at the 17th overall pick, but you didn't really fix that defense. And luckily, Trayvon Diggs in the second round was there for you, and he has certainly turned into one of the better corners, I think, in the NFC with what he's done toward the latter parts of his rookie year and now into the first 2 weeks of the season in 2021. But the draft this year was all defense. I mean, you go out and you get a Micah Parsons, and goodness gracious, has he been a game changer, playing multiple positions, showing the versatility and the athleticism that not a whole lot of people are able to do. And I know you guys know him from up in the PA area as well, but goodness, he is a joy to watch. And him fall to you at 12 after making the switch with Philly, where you guys picked up Smith, I think it was a huge plus for this Cowboys defense, and it finally gives some versatility, something that they have been lacking for much of the last couple of years. They also added some extra guys on the interior. Osa Odighizuwa has been very good. UCLA product, third-round pick. He has been a big bright spot. And then Jabril Cox, a linebacker from LSU, who adds to that rotation and is, I think, going to see a lot more playing time this week without guys like Keanu Neal in the vicinity. But, yeah, the emphasis was certainly on defense. They made the picks that they needed to. And right now, outside of Kelvin Joseph and Chauncey Golston, who have been banged up entering the season, your draft picks have been a huge part and have played a huge role throughout your defense early on.
Definitely. Now, a name that you brought up was Keanu Neal, right? I'm going through Twitter, seeing that, it's official that he's going to be out for the Monday game. I just want to know, because obviously we don't, I'm not watching the all 22 of Dallas every week, but how important is that for you guys? Obviously having a guy like Jalen Hurts that is a mobile quarterback, was he your main guy looking to spy him? What was the role that he is going to now be needed to be filled, if that makes sense, now that he's gone?
Yeah, I think it's a huge loss. He was the number one graded Pro Football Focus linebacker in the preseason across the NFL, not just on the Cowboys roster. He had the highest grade through the games in the preseason of anybody, and had a 90+ on all of those occasions. So I think it is a huge loss. This is a guy who played safety at Atlanta, has moved up into the linebacker rotation, and has given a chance for Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith to rotate in and out with Micah Parsons and not have to see them on the field for 95% of the snaps, which I think has let them play a little bit more free, have those fresh legs, and be able to roam around the field a little bit easier. Not having Neal this week is interesting, because last week we were missing DeMarcus Lawrence and Randy Gregory off of the edge, and the Cowboys elected to throw Micah Parsons off the edge, and he played a significant number of defensive end snaps against the Chargers. Well, the question now, as Randy Gregory made his return this week, was he going to be there again? Well, initially the answer was probably no. But then you lost other defensive guys like Dorrance Armstrong and Carlos Watkins, who will be out. So maybe Micah Parsons plays a little defensive end. Oh, here we go. Now Keanu Neal is out for at least a week because of the COVID protocol. So I think it's a huge loss, because it takes away that versatility that I was mentioning earlier. You have these pieces that are now put into the puzzle, and you could mix them and match them all the way around. And now that Keanu Neal is not a part of that piece, now you're kind of pigeonholed into maybe putting Micah Parsons back as a linebacker. He may still rush the passer, and then it's up to Leighton Vander Esch, Jabril Cox, and Jalen Smith to play at the second level. But either way, with an athletic quarterback like Jalen Hurts, I think it does pose some problems for this Cowboys defense.
Definitely. And Micah Parsons is a dagger to my heart. You know, Penn State Nittany Lions are playing right now 3-0, I might add, looking
there
great.
you go.
But you know, seeing him and Saquon Barkley go to, you know, rivals is just, it hurts my heart every Sunday. And, you know, this Monday it's going to hurt a little bit too. But now let's switch on over to the offense. Obviously, you guys are a well-oiled machine on that offensive side. I don't think anybody's really surprised. I think maybe the balanced attack is a little bit surprising to some people, but you are missing some key cogs on that side of the ball. One name that comes out is Michael Gallup. I just want to know, what is the plan there? I know he's number 3, but you guys are a heavy wide receiving attack. Is it going to be just, you know, Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb seeing their targets go up, or is it going to be somebody maybe we don't know of?
Yeah, you're doing your research, no doubt. I can tell just by the way you're laying out this Cowboys offense better than I think I could. The receivers, you're right. It's been 1, 2, 3, but with as good and as talented as those 3 guys are, it's 1A, 1B, 1C. I mean, these all could be number 1 receivers in the NFL, depending on what roster that they're a part of. And not having the deep threat that Michael Gallup poses does limit your offense to a certain extent. Now, Dak Prescott hasn't thrown the ball deep, and Kellen Moore hasn't asked him to throw the ball deep really to start the season. The majority of his throws are underneath 10 yards, and he actually leads the league in completion percentage and in yardage for throws under 10 yards through those first 2 weeks of the year. So the deep threat hasn't been there regardless. Now, Amari Cooper is also banged up. I mean, he's had some bruised ribs. He's been dealing with that throughout the week, and so if he's not 100%, is CeeDee Lamb going to be good enough to take that offense and to be able to carry it on his own shoulders? I would say yes, just from what we've seen from the second-year man out of Oklahoma. But it does pose a little bit of a matchup tendency because you've got guys underneath CeeDee Lamb that can play. I mean, Cedric Wilson's a pretty darn good receiver. Noah Brown, who has been a special teams core guy, he'll play some significant snaps, and he definitely flashed last year whenever the receivers were missing on a couple of occasions. But anytime you downgrade from Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper to Cedric Wilson and Noah Brown, you're going to have a bit of a drop-off, and it's going to have to depend on the way that Kellen Moore calls that football game and the way that Dak Prescott is able to throw the football around.
Definitely. Now, another thing I want to ask you, brought up Cedric Brown. Never heard of Cedric Wilson, excuse me, yeah. Noah Brown. Never heard of Noah Brown. So it segues perfectly into my next question. Obviously, all the eyes are on Dak, Amari, Zeke, right? The headliners, right? But are there any guys offensively or defensively that us as Eagles fans should not be surprised to hear their name and be like, who's this guy killing us right now? Are there any surprise picks or under the radar guys that you're looking at for this Dallas team?
I mentioned Cedric Wilson. I think he would probably be number 1 on that list as a really under the radar guy that you don't really know a whole lot about. And last year, it was actually week 3 that he exploded for triple digits, and he had a couple of touchdowns, a couple of long touchdowns against Seattle. So now that we're in week 3 again, maybe he does. He has an encore performance like he did up in the Great Northwest last year. Another name I would throw on the table is maybe Tony Pollard. I mean, he had a big game last week against the Chargers. That one's maybe not as much so under the radar because he did have the touchdown. He had 109 yards on the ground, and he's a threat in the receiving game. But I expect him to be more of a receiver this week than he is a tailback. I think Ezekiel Elliott will get the majority of the carries. They may mix Corey Clement in there as well. But I think Pollard is going to be utilized in the passing game more. Just because of the thin amount of skills positions on offense, or at least the thinner amount. You still have 2 tight ends that are really good, that are throwing or that are continuing to escalate their own game. But I think you'll see a little bit from Cedric Wilson, Tony Pollard, a little bit more in that passing game, and then Zeke will usually carry the majority of the time on the ground.
Definitely. Now, I think there's a lot of NFL teams that would love to be as thin as the Cowboys are when it comes to the skill position.
I know. I said thin, and then I stopped myself, and I was like, okay, even without Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, you still have CeeDee Lamb, you still have Dalton Schultz, you still have Blake Jarwin, Zeke, and Tony Pollard. You're feeling pretty good, even with a couple of those guys missing. But like I said, you never want to miss your top top echelon, your elite receivers, because anytime you're missing those guys, it's not necessarily going to work out in your favor.
Definitely. Now, a question I want to ask is kind of a selfish one now, right? We've talked a lot of Cowboys, but I want to know from your perspective and kind of from your, media team's perspective. I know you're not the only one that's on the shows and everything. What do you see for the Eagles? What is your visual of us? How do you see us right now?
I see the Eagles as a young Los Angeles Rams team. And let me explain this here for a second. I really like the hire of Nick Sirianni a lot. I like his mind. I like his mindset. He's kind of a new age sort of guy. And it reminds me a lot of Sean McVay back in the day when he was first hired by the Rams. I like the hire early on. And you're kind of going against the grain with a guy like Jalen Hurts. A lot of people wrote off Hurts coming out of the draft. A lot of people have written him off since then outside of Philadelphia. But I think this is a talented player. He can throw it. He can run it. And my goodness, he knows how to win football games. And I think at some point that competitive nature is going to get out there. I compared Jalen Hurts, and people killed me for this in Dallas. I compared him in the draft to a young Dak Prescott, a smaller Dak Prescott. They're both big guys, and they're both decent players coming out of college, but I really think it's the winning mentality and the leadership qualities that make them able to be a franchise quarterback in the NFL. And plus, my goodness, I love the receivers, man. Quez Watkins was one of my favorites coming out of Southern Miss. I do a lot of Conference USA, ESPN work throughout the college football season, so I had a chance to watch Quez Watkins on multiple occasions. And my goodness, I always was just blown away by his potential at the next level. And I kept trying to say that along the way throughout the draft process as well. And finally, he's starting to show that out. Jalen Reagor from Waxahachie down the street went to TCU. I mean, I had watched him since he was in high school, calling games of his against Highland Park back when I was in college. So I really love the young receivers. And, of course, how can you not love Devontae Smith? I mean, the dude's going to be a baller. He's a Heisman Trophy winner for a Reason. This is a young team that is continuing to ascend. It scares me as a Cowboys employee, and it scares me as a Cowboys fan, because I think at some point it's all going to click, and this Eagles team is going to win a lot of football games. It may not be in 2021, but certainly into the future, I think this team's going to have a lot of success.
Definitely. Well, I know a lot of Eagles fans are hoping the future starts week 3 against the Dallas Cowboys. So I got a couple more questions, and then we'll get you out of here, man. I do want to ask, because, this whole week is going to be a bunch of stats. We're going to get a bunch of numbers thrown at us, but that's not what wins football games, right? Matchups do. So I want to know, what are some key matchups on your Dallas side that you're, looking forward to watching or intrigue you the most?
Well, I think first off, it's going to be this offensive line up against the defensive line from Philadelphia. Of course, you've got guys like Fletcher Cox in the middle. No Brandon Graham, which is unfortunate for the Philadelphia side. I know the Cowboys they enjoy not having the game plan around him, because he's certainly a fantastic player. But I think through the first 2 weeks of the season, one of the weakest points of this Cowboys offense has been the interior. It's been Tyler Biadasz, a second-year man out of Wisconsin. He was a fourth-round pick a year ago. And then Connor Williams, who's playing the left guard spot. Williams has had a really good couple of games, but Biadasz hasn't necessarily taken that next step as you would have anticipated for a second-year guy. So I'm interested to see how the interior of that line holds up for Dak Prescott. Is he going to have to utilize the mobile ability a little bit more throughout the latter parts of this game than maybe he did in the weeks 1 and 2? So that's one thing I'm looking at. The other one is, like we talked about earlier, is Tony Pollard going out wide. Who's going to cover him? Who's going to be that nickel or the safety that comes down? I know Philadelphia is running that single high look. Are they going to bring that other safety in to cover Tony Pollard? Should he go out into the slot? That's something I'm interested to see, because he played a lot of running back hybrid receiver during his time in Memphis, and he hasn't done it a ton with Dallas. But I don't know, maybe with this week, if Amari Cooper's not 100%, and of course without Michael Gallup, he may show a couple different looks in the passing game.
Yeah, and I know, Eagles, this is probably one time at least, like, this is probably the first time in like a decade that we feel a little bit of confidence in our secondary. Please don't take that away from us, guys. Don't
I feel the same way about our secondary, so I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it's like the first time in a while.
Yep.
So I hope it shows. I hope it's a good game. But last question I want to ask you is, who is this Dallas team? You know, realistically, Eagles fans are never going to look at them as you know what they truly are if they're doing good, and same way, you know, the other opposite side. So realistically, what do you see this team as? Is this a deep run playoff team in your opinion? Is this a still team ascending? Where do you see these Dallas Cowboys?
I think this is a deep run team that's just on the verge. They're so close to getting it done, and you could really see that week 1 against Tampa Bay. I mean, when you had a couple guys out, I mean, you were missing a couple of your key pieces, but you still had an opportunity to beat the reigning Super Bowl champions on the road when really Tampa didn't play poorly. Sure, they left a couple of plays on the table, but ultimately the Buccaneers played about what you expected the Buccaneers to play like, and Dallas hung with them every step of the way. If you were to tell me right now, this current roster with the state of missing 5 to 6 starters scattered throughout the offensive and defensive side, I don't think I would tell you it's a deep run team. I really don't. I don't think right this second, this team that'll be playing on Monday Night Football is the same team that can make a deep playoff run. But if you get Michael Gallup back, you get Lyle Collins back, you get DeMarcus Lawrence back, Keona Neal, who has been playing exceptionally above expectations than when he was brought in from Atlanta, and then you're able to have that versatility like I had mentioned. Even Kelvin Joseph, your second-round pick, hasn't played a snap for you in the regular season. You keep getting these pieces to the pie all the way back into the mix, and then all of a sudden I think you do have something. And they can win games, don't get me wrong, without those guys. And I think this week it'll be a great test because Philadelphia, like I said, is an ascending team. They bring a couple of different challenges that the Cowboys haven't necessarily seen early on. And if the Cowboys aren't ready, they're going to get beat. But I still think even if they come in and they execute their game plan, they're going to have a really good shot to win on Monday night, even without those pieces. But if you're asking to make a deep run, go to an NFC championship game, they're going to need everyone around Dak Prescott and that core of receivers and the strength of their team to be able to make that run. And right now they just don't have that.
Definitely. I think all media will agree, and a lot of fans will agree as well, that Dallas is the bar right now for the division. And I feel like Monday can be the Eagles kind of putting their stamp and saying, hey, we're here as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. But Kyle, thank you so much for your time, man. This was a lot of fun. And I don't say that to many Cowboys people, I promise you. So I really do appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's funny because I get questions about it every once in a while. Of course, Philadelphia is hated down here in Dallas, and it's a great rivalry. I'm a pleasure to be a part of it. But the thing is I went to a school at North Texas that's green and uses an eagle as their mascot. And so I have like throwback gear that has eagles and it's green, and I wear it to like the gym, which is down from the star. And I wear it to the gym, and everybody's like, what are you doing? Like, oh, what is going on here? I just thought I would throw that in there. But yeah.
I'm mad you didn't bring it on the show.
I know.
I'm mad you didn't rock it.
I mean, I can go grab it real quick. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Everybody enjoy Monday Night Football. Let's keep this rivalry alive. This is one of the best rivalries in the NFL when both of these teams are good, and it makes for a lot more fun.
I definitely agree. Kyle, you're welcome back anytime you'd like, man. And keep up the great work. Like I said, I'm not a fan of the Cowboys, but I love seeing great content, and you guys bring some great content. But other than that, I appreciate everybody that tuned in. Be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe. And you guys know what it is, man. It is Fly, Eagles Fly, and we are out here. Peace!
We want Dallas! Dallas! We hate you!
Yeah.
Dallas!
Shout out Philly Fresco, shout out Brandon Eric, man. I see y'all boys doing y'all thing out there. This one for Philly, Fly, Eagles Fly, let's get it. It's the time of the year, big rival this week. Having Jerry in the seat, regretting that he signed Zeke. Hurt season in effect in the NFC East. Coming through to take over, it's the mark of the beast. Pass rush will make him nervous, putting Dak on his back. Mika Parsons doing what? We got my ladder for that. They feel say they the best, but you know that they capping. Cowgirls is the accident waiting to happen. Go to Jerry Road and make them more fail in the face. Get the job done and take so control on first place. Destination is Dallas, and we dropping the bomb. You are now tuning in to Philly the pod, yeah. Philly, Philly the pod. You are now tuning in to Philly, Philly the pod. Yeah, yeah. Philly, Philly the pod. You are now tuning in to Philly, Philly the pod. Yeah.